go through a couple of student examples of imperfections. Okay, this probably looks like a pretty good drawing. It's got cut, fill, platform level, pipe, invert, and it's showing a cross-section view through the middle of the platform. But there are a lot of imperfections in this one that I need to point out. The first thing that comes to mind here is you don't need the word fill. You just put a 1 there and a 2 up the top. So it's 2 along in that direction and a 1 in that direction. The second thing that comes to mind is the cut. So you don't have the word cut and the word fill, you just put 1 and 1 there, 1 and 2 there. The next thing is the rock. The rock hatch indicates immediately that you're going to fill that and you're going to take rock out of the ground. That's not true. Actually, the geotechnical term is rock conglomerate. I don't know how I remember that, but there we are. Secondly, if you're cutting through a pipe on an angle, and that's sort of what you are asking me, except for this is you're asking me about assignment 1. With the cross sections, you're cutting through a pipe on an angle, which means that's going to be an oval shape, not a circle shape.
Like an ellipse? Sort of.
Yeah, a bit like an ellipse.
Okay.
And if you don't believe me, as I said, put your finger on the table at home, get a knife, chop through it, and you'll see a nice little ellipse. Only for a few seconds, and then you'll probably blank out. So the deal, got to have a bit of fun in class. Like you, dear Hugh, you won't guess what Roger said today. Don't worry, he was just going to go like that.
Yeah.
These are cross section.
Just thought it was what Roger and
Yeah, probably sees you come into the office again. Is it Roger again? Yes. Oh, good God. I'll go and get a cup of coffee. Could be a while. Here's your cross section. Here's your pipe coming through on an angle. So it's going that way behind me, but it's coming from over there, right? So think of the racing car driver with the mirror. Ayrton Senna, I think his name was. The mirror started shuddering. He should have gone in and got it fixed, but he went, threw it out and finished the race, won the race. And they said, what did you win the race for? No, why didn't you fix your mirror? He said, because I'm not interested in anything behind me, just on what I have to pass in front of me, right? So you think about that philosophy with the cross section. Behind me here is a piece of pipe that's coming through on that angle. We don't want to see that. You'll see an oval where my chest is, and over there, it's kind of in the distance, so it's dashed. So dashed, solid oval like chap over there said, and behind me, nothing. So that's the way you've got to kind of think with cross sections. So therefore this one's wrong because it actually cut through on an angle. We're not actually following that pipe. This was what we did in the long section. And by the way, with any cross section, we never have, and you're listening to this, aren't you? No centre line. Okay. Now the other thing is at the end, they've done a very nice little, what we call a pipe continuous symbol. I'll draw that on the board. It's actually quite cool, and you can do it with an ellipse. If you go to the draw command and then go ellipse, you can make little ellipses. Ellipses are like ovals. So it actually looks like that. And it means that the pipe continues on. So the student has actually done that part right. I think from about here onwards. But that should have been dashed because it's in the distance. And this bit from here onwards should have been nothing. And there should have been an oval at the end of it. it's easy to work out where the oval is. You've got the width, you just draw lines straight up to work out. I'll probably show you that today with one of the cross sections. What could improve it? See, this is the difference between a D and a C or an A. A D and a C student will just put that and think, oh, I've done it. You know, Roger told me that in class. And I'm clever, right? An A student will put an arrow there going, this pipe continues to the manhole with an invert level of blah, 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 right? Because the person on site wants to know that from the drawing. And same as if there's an outlet structure over here somewhere, which you can't quite get to, you do the same thing. Little squiggle thing. This pipe goes to outlet, invert level, such and such. Right? So that's the sort of thinking that you've got to think when you're looking to try and milk me for more marks. Today in class, I'm going to show you how we take our long section tree and turn it into something to put on the cross section. Now you're probably thinking, cut, paste. No, because remember, Chinese basketball player, American basketball player, LeBron, whatever, tall, 8 foot million high, and me, short and 8 foot million wide. You have to shrink the tree down in the X direction, but not the Y direction, right? So those trees aren't right. They've got them off the internet and going plonk, plonk, look at me, look at the great drawing I've done. They've even put colour on them. I mean, that was pretty amazing, isn't it? But they didn't bring them in and shrink them to the right size. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. Hatching, oh, Ingrid would crucify you for that. You'd have to stay back late after class and put the chairs up for doing that one. It's got to be on an angle of 45 degrees, right? This text here is too small. They've used 0.25 in here. I don't know why. They've just suddenly decided 0.25 fit it in or something. This should be all 0.35, everything. And there's one other thing that I'm going to point out which is really bad. Can anyone see it? The arrows up here.
They're not connecting to the pipeline.
Well, yes, true. They don't touch. You should make them touch. Ingrid would have nailed you for that. But they're too big. That doesn't equal that.
The arrow size.
The text height is correct, but the arrows. So what happens is this is a 1 to 50 drawing, and they've drawn it in model space. And in model space, you've already got your arrows all sorted for 1 to 100 for your long section and for your plan. And suddenly you've done a drawing to the side for your cross section, and everything's working out okay. You know, it's easy to change the text. You just double click on it and swipe it and make it the right size. You do the maths, because you know, for 1 to 50, and you find the text is a different text type, smaller. But you forget about your dimensions. And you can't change your dimensions because that's going to stuff all your dimensions up on your proposed plan. So what you do is you right click on that one and you change the arrow size. Then you get out your paintbrush and you go paint, 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 paint. All right. Now you may find that you want to do it the other way around. You keep it like that and you paint all the ones on the plan. I think you'll probably find it's easier just to quickly paint those ones. Do you know what I mean by paint? It's called Max Properties. It looks a bit like a paintbrush, and it'll paint. Once you do one of them, it'll paint the rest of them the right size. If you use QLeader, if you don't, then you have another problem. There's a couple of last things. First of all, that is not very professional, and this here has not got the one in which you know how to work out from last week.
Roger, I noticed there's no drip lines coming off the trees. Is that fine? Or?
You don't need to write a drip line. You don't need those lines, but you do need the.
Yes, I mean.
You do need the centre line of the tree.
Yeah.
you need a little triangle beside it saying what level it is, and you do need to come down here and work out all these values.
Cool. Yeah, okay.
But you don't need every 5 metres like you did on the long section, so there's not as much work to do on the cross section. Hence, I haven't allocated as much marks. You're still going to do it for under the platform. So I'll bring up another couple of examples that are a bit rough. And this is where a student has kind of gone off on a tangent. I think they worked for a company and that was the way the company did it, and I kept saying, look, you know, you can do it to your company standards, but you're not necessarily going to get an A mark in my class. And this is what they did. So they rotated the text, they put the meter in, an M. They didn't put the grade in the way we did it. The tree was way too big. And then they went ballistic with their hatch pattern. You know, it's almost like they're weaving in great big mat all the way along the job. The pipeline, they got that all wrong again. But if I was to give them the fair dues, they've done something that's the other one didn't do, is they've taken their dimensions from the centre line, that way and that way, right? And that's what we do in our cross sections. With a long section, it's as if we're walking along the road, 5, 10, 15, 6.3, 20.8, whatever. It's a cumulative distance. With the cross section, we always have a setup line and 9 times out of 10, it's the centre of a road or the centre of a platform. There are exceptions. I mean, you'd be a bit dumb to do it down the middle of the motorway, unless you don't particularly like living. So you'd probably set up on the side and you'd have a set-up line on the side of the motorway. And you let the chainman run across the road and get killed. It's much better than...
Well, they have it as me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Things have changed a bit now. With the, in my time you had to, the chainman, when you did cross sections, you set up in the middle of the road with your theodolite, and the chainman went that way, then they'd walk all the way that way, then you go to the next point along the road. And the head surveyor would just about shoot you at dawn if you lost any of the survey equipment. It was that expensive in those days. So in other words, he'd rather see you get killed by a car than the machine get run over by a car. But they are the good old days. This is wrong. The banner slopes aren't shown on a section view. This is so tiny it's not funny, you can't read it. There's quite a few things here. I don't like text that way, it's got to be the other way. Good notes. If you're into copying notes, there's quite a few on there that are reasonably able to be transferred to your own drawing. And what I don't like about this is they've used the plan view for the tree in here. Should have really been a miniature copy of that thing, right? It's okay for the plan, but it's not okay for a section view. So if you've copied your plan legend, little things like that need to change. Okay. And someone did ask me how come that's on a slight angle and our assignment's on a